Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the ESL Open Cup. This is the Korean Cup. It's the third one to have ever existed. And spawning here in the top left side of the map is going to be the red Zerg player, the one and only
Armani.
Oh, I think I made that sound a little too deep. To the bottom right, he is quite the talented player. A lot of people forget he's come back a long time ago since the military. He's one of my favorite Terrans. We do have
Dream.
Now, Dream, oops, didn't want to look at Armani's vision. Dream, as I mentioned, I think a little bit lesser known because he doesn't carry the hype that he did in his heyday, but he plays in a lot of stuff. We've seen him in the GBL, we've seen him for IM qualifiers, you name it, Dream's been there. And regrettably, he hasn't had any crazy results that are like, oh my god, you know, Dream 3-0'd Zest and 3-0'd Innovation back to back. Nothing quite as exciting as that. But he has been showing really good games. And in these kind of casual cups, I think he's got a pretty good chance to be one of the top two players. More to the point today, especially, as you guys probably hear Advil in the background. My tooth is bugging me. But we have had a lot of walkovers. So we had a lot of players signed up. We had Patience, we had Spear, we had several other Koreans that we recognize. But they've all dropped out of the cup today, forfeited of their own volition. Not too sure why. Some suspect that at the time of the broadcast, it's, you know, Chinese New Year's. Maybe people were celebrating. Maybe people are still celebrating. Who knows? But one really notable person has been missing from today's tournament cup, and that's Solar. I mention this because Solar won both of the last Korea ESL Open Cups. Now, dear viewer who might be watching casually on YouTube and you don't really know what these tournaments are about, you just saw two of your favorite players. These cups hold points and prize money. It's $100 winner take all for first place, but 10 points and 5 points for first and second. These points might not sound like much because, let's be honest, in the past, things like Go for Starcraft and other not so notable cups have had points. Who cares? Well, these ones matter a lot because the new system that's replaced WCS will be incorporating these weekly cups, granted small points, into their new system for the circuit. So theoretically, a lot of these people who would like to maybe be that person who just squeezes into IM Katowice next year and stuff like that, it'll be because they played a lot of these cups. Of course, you can learn more about this on the ESL website, and we'll talk more about that later. For now, we'll watch how this game goes. Dream's actually been showing quite a bit of mech and bio recently, so I honestly don't know what he's preferring. I know that I personally prefer watching Dream's bio, but mech seems to be on the menu for a lot of Terran in this matchup. And denying a creep tumor like that with the Reaper is actually really big. It's not going to stop creep spread. As you can see, Armani still has a live tumor, but that is the same as denying an inject or taking away from a later transfuse, because the Queen's going to have to absolutely replant on a new creep tumor. Also a little annoying on the front lines is this has to be guarded against. Also, Heart Revenge, dude, thank you for the 37 months. Lorna is folklore told to bad kids, and it's about the lady who drowned her kids. It scares the shit out of me today. Why would you share that? What? I was trying that you had to deal with this. Or the story? Look, I don't know where that came from. Yikes. All right, let me pop these Advil real quick. Drugs. Don't clip that out of context. And it looks like it is going to be bio, by the way. I'd asked that question kind of casually at the start because, again, mech has been so prevalent with all players. But I like Dream's micro, and I like his multitasking. The one thing I wish we'd see more people do is incorporate what Polt's been doing. Now, regrettably, Polt's not here today. Maybe we'll see him in the North American Cup. But Polt's been doing these really cool medevac fusion core builds. And I bring this up primarily because I do feel a little badly. During one of my previous VODs, I explained this a little too quickly and glanced over all of the benefits of it. So I'm going to take this VOD to just rectify it really quick. Because the medevac speed increase is really cool. Or booster upgrade is really cool. It effectively reduces the cooldown or the downtime of the boost itself. But it also provides a passive movement speed increase for the medevac. Not a lot. Not like Zealots to charge, but it's enough to matter. And I was chewed out for only explaining half of that on a previous cast, and I've apologized. And I'm just saying it here because I do feel like sometimes I glance over the stuff that if my point that I'm trying to stress is about the booster and not about the secondary effect, I'm not thinking about explaining the secondary effect. So hopefully this does justice to those who were upset by that previous cast. Regardless, we have quite a few queens out here, and it's going to be very difficult for Dream to bust in. I think right now his goal is primarily look for an opening and take it if he can. Otherwise, just try and deny some creep tumors. There's really no advantage to taking a fight right now, especially when these Hellions will complement the follow-up force a lot better, especially if it's with 1-1 Marines. What is this from Fried Bun? Hey, Base Trade, you and the recent Alpha Star postings remind me of a 2011 and 2012 esports introduction. Love the cast I've seen so far. Hey, man, thanks. I'm glad to know you enjoy them. I know Alpha Star's not everybody's flavor, but I've had some fun casting those. We've been so busy, though. So dang busy the last month. I haven't been able to put a lot of them out, so I'm getting back to it. Getting back on that horse, so to speak. But as tonight and as many nights, I have a lot of live shows to cover, too. So it makes it difficult to find freedom to do it. But I'm glad to know you like it, man. It makes me feel more motivated to do more. But we do have lots of barracks finished up here. More importantly, the add-ons are wrapping up, so Dream's production is about to explode. Push back through the middle of the map. It's quite. I gotta say, kudos to Armani, because despite having these Hellions right on the front lines and being very active about trying to deny these creep tumors, Armani still actually has some pretty good creep spread going out on the map. He's also got a little bit of control here with some lings to the bottom side. They're not going to be rushing in with this little wall up, but they could still obviously go around. Oh, Armani, I am so sorry I caught that on camera. Oh, you're still doing it. Stop it. This is embarrassing. You're a pro Korean player. You're not allowed to waste banelings on rocks like that. I think, was that 4 or 5? That was actually a pretty notable amount of banelings. Like, when you consider every gas matters for the Zerg player in this instance against a tank push, that's a huge waste of banelings. All right, tank's not going to focus fire on the banelings precisely, but the banelings already running out. Just being said, Armani still cleans this up. So ultimately, I guess he has the freedom to be a little bit careless with his banelings if he can play that well. I think part of that does go in Dream, though. He was setting up and he wasn't quite ready. You know, the Hellions weren't here covering, nor were they producing any kind of pressure. I think if this was all together like it is now, this could have been a lot more powerful and a lot more threatening. But the idea for the Hellions is at this point, they're kind of leftovers. If they get hit by banelings, if they soak up ling hits, anything these do are just like bonus points. Hellbats are so good, though. If you can keep a couple of these, even just like 1 or 2 of these in the back line by the tank, ling run bys will not be a problem. But of course, having 1 tank is significantly different than having 2. Is a matter of target firing down the banelings. So on creep, especially not a fight that Dream wants to take, but I really think that first fight may have disrupted his flow here more than anticipated. He's got Drilling Claws coming up next. Say, okay, forget it. Tanks suck. Well, in realistically, they're going to complement the siege tanks, but Drilling Claws can be really effective against Zerg players who aren't ready for them and are not prepared for them. As we can see here, he continues to try and posture, but there's no real opportunity to jump on any basis. Dream knows this too. This is why I think Dream's a player I respect quite a bit. It's his map positioning. He knows that, like, right here, he doesn't actually gain anything. Taking a fight here for a little bit of creep doesn't actually mean much unless he's willing to commit to the push. So that's why we see him playing kind of, like, you know, dipping his toes into the creep but not really committing. He doesn't want to take a fight without that second siege tank. Second siege tank finally here. No flank from behind, and this is a good position to bait Armani up that ramp with. Armani's also playing Hydras behind this too. I haven't brought this up till just now, but it's worth noting that this is usually what you do if you don't go for Mutalisks. They've got a little bit more sustainability. They obviously don't pop off the same way banelings do, but they can also shoot up and take those medevacs out. And as you can see here, he is targeting some of the medevacs down. Ones that are just kind of lazily there on the front lines. Oh, that squad on the left is screwed. Picking up a little bit too late. The tanks are all that are left. Dream's army falls apart on the front lines. And that 2-2 for Armani really showing through here. Now, Armani, of course, has to be careful he doesn't over counterattack and over invest. There's a chance Dream's got these tanks set up on the back line. And these are Hydras that don't have muscular augments yet. They're about to. They're coming up against 2-2 by off of creep. I mean, favor goes to numbers. Armani's got numbers. But again, he's off of creep. But it doesn't seem to matter. Even without the Ling fodder in the front lines, there appears to be more than enough Hydras to contest this. Concussor shells are not done yet, but that's not that important for right now. It'll help a little bit, of course, but primarily the Marauders are here to soak shots from the banelings, allowing the Marines to ideally live. Say ideally, though, because it's not how this game's been trading out. And Armani with these banelings rolling around the speed of sound. Oh, maybe not quite the speed of sound. The tanks have got no focus fire right now. They're just kind of free firing by the looks of things. Okay, this one pops off some of the banelings, though, which was really good. Second tank sits up on the back line. These Hydras continue to push forward, and that small bio ball out of Armani, or out of Dream, is still not dealing with Armani. Granted, Armani hasn't done much here. He did deny concussor shells in a barracks and a few supply depots, but realistically, this didn't hit the SCV line. This didn't disrupt the economy. Dream's production still remains strong. So while this was a really good push for Armani, ultimately this just traded out army to army. You can see that reflected both here in the income graph. Yeah, that first dip was bad. But afterwards it stabilized. And then on the resources lost, same deal. Goes to PvP says he took a drug, Dan's game. I know, dude. Drug are bad. I downloaded one marijuana and look how bad it snowballed on me. All right, we have seismic spines. I kind of glanced over this because I was so focused on the fight, but we had Armani manage to get to Hive Tech. This makes his push actually far more impressive than I made it sound to be, because usually you are, as a Zerg player, one of your weakest moments in the game when you're making that transition to Hive and getting all that tech out. Now, prior to Lurkers getting buffed the way they have been, Hydras were still a very acceptable composition to have here paired with Banelings. Now that he's got Lurkers in the mix, he'll need a lot less Banelings, and the Lurkers are going to have that big range too. He went for range over the instant burrow, which I find interesting. It's an essential siege line for Dream to have to contest, and I don't know. This is a game here that is still melee upgrades are the focus. We've got possibly an Ultra Switch later on. I think this is some of the first drones to die this game, 12 minutes in. Valiant effort here from the drop, but is pushed off very quickly. There's another attack heading up on the top right side. Pre-unloaded, so it doesn't get caught out in the open by those Hydras, but even then, it's a pretty small squad of units. I don't know what it can really do since Armani's already in position. Drop down here, gonna pick off a Queen. Ooh, just barely. She doesn't kill the medevac though. The Hydras! Oh my god, this medevac has 7 HP. This is playing with fire, guys. This is playing with fire so hard. So while these distractions had a Dream go on, this is great. This has given him the freedom to also expand. Dream's macro was certainly in question for a good chunk of this game. As you saw, just like a steady increase in Armani. Actually, funny enough, this looks very much like how our viewership graph looks like. Okay, the stream's online here, and the game finally starts. And as the game, everyone starts watching, and then the series finishes, and then the next series starts up. Regardless of that silly little thing, we do have a really big push out of Dream. It's taken them a long time to get this up to where it needs to be, but we haven't seen the Lurkers involved with the fight yet. Dream's been pushing back against Lings and Banlings, and here come the Lurkers, and they do have adaptive talons. That's going to let them burrow instantly. Now, these are going to chunk Marauders. Even though they don't have bonus damage from Marines, they do like half of the Marines' HP in a single shot. They move up to the Siege Tanks. Lightning Clouds on top of the Siege Tanks. Top right drop also pushed off. Oh my god, that tank did a flip. It's a hard fight to take because he doesn't have really great vision on this one, but the scans go down and the tanks hold the front line. Not a lot of bio remains, so I don't know that Dream can really continue pushing up here, but he's focused on dropping and harassing, and oh my god, these guys are all over the place. I literally can't keep up. It's too much. This hatchery's gonna have to get canceled. No cancel, it's a kill. This is what I'm talking about, by the way, guys. Everything that happened in this game up until this minute was Dream getting beaten back by Armani. Dream's economy shambles to Armani. Everything favored Armani. And then right here, you can see this on both the income and the army graph. You can see exactly where the game turned around 2 minutes ago. And this is why I think Dream's still a player that definitely deserves respect. He's still so good at this game. A lot of lesser Terrans sort of lost at the sight of Lurkers. And I'm not saying he's won this game, but he's brought it back to be a fighting chance. They're on more even footing now than they have been for most of this game. I don't know about the Marauders, though. I feel so jaded about this because Lurkers are still fairly new, and I don't really know what the meta play is. It's not a lot of players have come across them in pro play yet. I don't know if Marauders are really the answer, because on one hand, Marauders definitely do more damage to Lurkers, but Lurkers also do more damage to Marauders. And when you compare those numbers, it's 30 in a line versus 9. Well, sorry, that's a Marine. 26. I think one of the key things here, though, is we don't have upgrades for Armani's range, which is lacking up to this point. And while you can play Ling Hydra and have the focus be on melee, I'm not sure if that's the same rules here for Lurkers or not. I guess he's playing really well without upgrades, is my point. And I can only imagine how much more deadly this would be with proper upgrades. But I think this fight on the front line might just be a little too much. The medevac's having trouble separating from that parasitic bomb. He really needs Liberators. He can't even afford to get to that point in this game. Be it Liberators, be it tanks, be it anything that's not bio, because all of his ground units are getting shredded by those Lurkers and the Blinding Cloud combinations. Now, granted, Armani's losing a lot of Lurkers too. It's not like he's walking away from this fight with Swarmhost super cost effective. But every time I think we just see that explosion of spikes come out, that erupt from the ground, Dream falls off. Spikes, spikes, more spikes. I mean, I guess one of the gimmicks is like if you could theoretically play perfect, you could micro dance through the spikes and avoid damage entirely, but the chance of that happening is non-existent. But naysayers out there, you've been proven wrong. I told you this match was worth waiting for. In fairness, I don't think anyone was arguing that it wasn't, but game one already setting us some great expectations in this best of 3. And also, quick reminder that while maybe that's not how things go, we don't know the results yet. Trap is on the other side of this bracket, so there's a fairly good chance that the winner of this will play against Trap. So we're definitely going to hang on to this side of the bracket for some good games. No questions about it. Lurkers, man, just so much damage so quick to anything tagged armored. Banlings come through and they take out the oh my god, the Marines. This feels so bad for Dream because like on paper it's very much a rock beats paper and scissors scenario, right? You go Hydras and Banlings, it deals with the Marines. You go Lurkers, it deals with the Marauders. So if you have Lurker Banling, Armani's technically got a perfect counter in every way to Dream's army. That's why we really got to take to that next step, and I think Liberators make a lot of sense. Granted, Hydras can totally kill Liberators and they'll get abducted, but at the very least, Lurkers can't fire back against them. Either way, like I don't think tanks are doing a poor job. We're seeing him take some pretty ridiculous fights, all things considered. Dream, I mean. But I think Dream would be doing far better if he had Liberator production. I'm a little curious on why that's not the case. Granted, not a Pro Terran player here, but we watch a lot of Pro Terrans play, and of the ones that I've seen play Lurkers, things like Ghosts for snipes and things like Liberators have been some of the answers we've seen to the problem posed. Also, I'm very surprised Armani decided not to go for any ultras. Like, I get not investing into ultras in general, but with full upgrades, like 1 or 2 would make a lot of sense to me against a mostly bio army. Pair that here with the Lurkers and like nothing's gonna live. But who am I to criticize? Armani kicked a lot of butt and he took game number 1. We'll talk more about that after we're out of the game. For now, we hop into game number 2. Best of 3 continues. Spawning here to the top left side of the map. He's got 12 workers, so, you know, inherently that's broken for Zerg because when we had 6 workers, it was a better game and people don't know what they're doing. It is the red Zerg.
Armani.
And to the lower right, we have the blue Terran player. It's
Dream.
I'm not sure what happened with my voice on that one. But yeah, I want to comment a little bit about this because it seems to be current events that are more than just a fun passing thing. So both on Reddit and now Team Liquid and regrettably what I'm seeing on Twitter, people are really talking about the worker start situation. There was a big article posted and I read the article and I'll give it credit. It was well written. I didn't agree with a lot of it, but I didn't think it was a poorly written article. And I think it did a very good job of illustrating the author's points he wanted to make. Again, I don't think that I agree with them. But the thing that's really annoying is I see this comment and this discussion come up very frequently. I would say like once every 3 or 4 months, somebody brings up the idea of either Starcraft 2 needing to show less information, so turn off the workers and turn off the income and make it more like Brood War, or the people say that it should have the workers start. And a while ago, I don't remember which organization covered it. I know Wardy cast these games. There's something called the OG6 Start or something. And it was a tournament where it was just Starcraft 2, but with 6 workers instead of 12. And you had players like Innovation and others play. And I watched it because back then, I think it was like 3 years ago now, I don't remember too much about the details because it was so long ago, but I remember watching these games thinking like, I do wonder, is this going to be better? Is this going to be worse? How does this affect it? It's really cool to go from discussion and theoreticals to putting it into practice and having a tournament. And you have people like Innovation, all these other guys play. And the only difference that happened, you watch these VODs, they're still there on Wardy's channel. I know they are because someone referenced one even. It was just boring, frankly. The starts, I don't think were a lot more dynamic. I don't think there was a lot of really cool play that came out of it. Sure, builds are a little bit more limited now than what you would see then. But truthfully and honestly, I think every change we've had, and God forgive me, I'm going to piss off a lot of people saying this, even Swarm hosts. I've liked every change they've done for StarCraft 2 eventually. Not all of them I agree with at the start, but when players figure out balance and figure things out, it's been, we've had a good run over the last few years. And I just... if this was just thoughtful discussion, I think it'd be really cool. but I was reading a Team Liquid thread probably about 45 minutes to an hour ago. Well, no, I guess a little bit earlier than that, because before I started casting, so before I went to the gyms, probably about 2 hours ago. Not that that's important. And I go to this thread, and so many comments have been like deleted or removed or moderated, or like people are just no longer saying, in my opinion, I think this would be cool, but they're just saying stuff like flat out, you're wrong and you're dumb. 6 workers is the best. And I can't wrap my head around it. So I'm sorry, I know I've talked about that for the majority of this game, but it's current events, and I don't know where you guys sit with this one. I think that what's happened is there's a lot of, this is my summary of it, and I'm not saying this is the right opinion, this is my opinion. I think there's just a lot of people who want Brood War to have better graphics than Remastered gave them. You know what I'm saying? Like, they want Brood War in StarCraft 2. And those kinds of people, you know what? If they want to go invest their own money and host their own tournaments and make stuff happen with 6 workers, more power to them. I'm never going to be one to say don't do that. But man, the degree upon which people are fighting about this topic is wild to me. And I just don't know how we got there. Anyways, we saw some early aggression from the Lings. Hey, Rifkins, 4 minutes. You want to cast the game? Look, we saw early Lings come out a little bit more dedicated. It kept the Reaper at home. These Hellions at the counterattack as expected. Armani lost 6 workers, and that sucks, but he almost pulled off the evolution chamber that would have blocked that out. So this was like a micro move away from being like 2 workers dead versus 6. But ultimately, there's actually nothing too wild about this game. They both played standard builds. Even the battlecruisers are following this up. Once upon a time, this is hype and cheesy. Back in the day of 6 workers. But no, realistically, this is kind of a standard opener. And Armani gets a really good scout on this. So what's really valuable about this is now he knows to put some investment here in anti-air. Not that he wasn't going to, but instead of having 4 queens, you're likely to have 6 and maybe even a couple spore crawlers, just to make sure this doesn't get too out of hand. I think battlecruisers, when they first came in with their teleport, you know, they were pretty, I'm going to say broken, but not because the unit was broken, but because Zerg players did not know how to respond to them. They left this in for a month or 2, and then people figured it out, and it wasn't so bad. What breaks my heart is, well, I just finished saying most changes we've had in the game have been pretty good. There's one I will always be adamant about. And I mean, like, you know, I just finished talking about, like, the religious zeal some characters have about the 6 worker start. I can empathize with that because I feel that way about the medevac and tank pickup combo being removed from the game. That was in the game for like a week, and I feel like it was like some of the most exciting StarCraft of all time. I'm being hyperbolic, but they took it out before anyone could really figure it out, I feel. And I think the battlecruiser dynamic mirrors that a lot for me, where I wish they'd almost bring it back. It'd be really cool to see some like late game micro with medevacs showing off, kind of like Protoss do with warp prisms. But anyways, as I mentioned, this was scouted very early on, so you can see this was actually handled very well. Dream grabs a queen or 2. Very risky here. He didn't know that the other queens weren't coming back, but okay, while this goes on, his battlecruiser micros against the queen and an overlord, grabs a couple kills, but loses out back at home. Teleport not available as it's on cooldown, so these SCVs are forced to run around, and those Hellions that were meant to combo attack with the battlecruiser are brought back home. Oh my god. This killed 12 workers. Now, if there wasn't a 3rd command center down, this would be devastating, but because there's a 3rd CC, this is manageable. And speaking of knowing how to handle battlecruisers, we do actually see Dream investing in Yamato, so we may even see a 3rd battlecruiser come out of this. Maybe. He lost a lot of workers. We might not see that be the case. But the point is 2 battlecruisers, 2 Yamatos. That's 2 instant dead units, basically at the start of every general fight. And the Hellions here, they could run into the worker line and kill a bunch of drones, but if they help the battlecruiser kill the queens, and there's nothing left to oppose the battlecruiser, well, that's going to run away a lot more than these Hellions will. But at the same time, if these queens are shooting the battlecruisers, the Hellions might just go for the drones. I was kind of hoping they'd go for the drones. That queen's really low. That's some splash damage, friendos. Now the Ling's coming. The Spore Crawler's going to try and reposition itself. It does get the burrow down, so the battlecruiser has to start backing away. But still, chaos and damage is done. And through all of this, Dream manages to move his 3rd base over to location. Oh my god, the way the battlecruiser covers those Hellions is beautiful! But yeah, 3rd CC now set up. So replacing the wall, this battlecruiser, oh, a small mistake, was not repaired from earlier. But Corruptors will be out in due time to deal with this. They'll serve some good purpose for the rest of the game. And for Dream, he's likely going to play mech. Yeah, I didn't even see the 3 factors. It is 100% mech behind this. Start with only 1 worker. No, stop it. Sorry, Sorry, I'm just reading up on the comments from there. This game actually took off right from the point where I finished my thoughts. So, you got Alarak doing intros? I wish. The guy who does Alarak's voice, he was like, I don't remember his real name. He was Q from Star Trek, though. I love his voice. He's so good. He's got one of those really distinctively recognizable voices, too. Not like as iconic as, say, like James Earl Jones, but as easy to identify. Like, oh, I know that voice, right? When you hear it. Rifkin trying to get a job at Blizzard. Oh, pass, dude. I would be fired within like a week of working at Blizzard for half of the stuff I say. All right, so we did go up to that third battlecruiser as I had talked about before. So the reason you don't really want to invest in more than this, especially if you're playing mech, is mostly just the cost of these units. Each battlecruiser is 400 minerals, 300 gas. If you want to start pumping out Cyclones to deal with the Corruptors or to get Siege Tanks and Thors, you can't afford to do it if you're pumping out battlecruisers. So as good as Yamato is, it's never worth going mass battlecruisers. This battlecruiser does have a teleport. You'll notice he didn't try to pop off the Yamato. Hellions continue to kill queens, which is just fantastic. Armani has lost like 9 queens this game. But of course, as far as Zerg players, I mentioned before, he's very aware of what's going on in this game. I'm pretty sure he knows this mech. This was a very late reply with the drones. I'm not sure what he was looking at, but he was certainly distracted. I think he was setting up an attack over here, diving in to find the battlecruisers, but he dives on top of missile turrets and Yamato cannons, so not really worth it. But this was a smart move nonetheless. If the Hellions weren't attacking, this would have been great for Armani, because typically a Terran player actually doesn't have the accurate amount of anti-air necessary to stop Corruptors from diving the battlecruisers like this. So when you teleport them home, you know that they're going to be low. You just go in and you swiftly get the kill. And even missile turrets are kind of like, because Corruptors have 2 base armor. Corruptors don't really give a about missile turrets a lot of the time. Missile turrets hit for 12 times 2, and that's great. But I mean, Corruptors have like, what, 200 health? 200 health! Well, who cares? It takes like 20 shots to kill a Corruptor. Actually, 21 because of Zerg regen. So it's just like, it takes forever to knock one of these out of the sky. So even if they dive back for your battlecruisers, usually missile turrets aren't enough. This time it was. But that was a little lucky there on Dream's part, to be honest. Oh, Fenris, what's up, man? I didn't even catch you in chat there. I haven't seen you in a while. Well, I see you on Twitter all the time, but howdy. All right. A couple Yamatos. He's missing the third one, but he just teleports out to be safe. And I guess a brief reminder for those who don't follow the game too closely, whether you're watching live or through VODs, battlecruisers are vulnerable in that state. They are not invulnerable as they were in the past. So when you get teleported out, you got to make sure you do it early. Otherwise, you can get totally plucked off before your teleport executes itself. So there's not just a 4th, but a 5th CC setup. Dream's looking to really explode with expansions. And I think he's going to do it with the confidence. Oh, this is unlucky. Unlucky, dude. He's going to do it with the confidence of a Zerg player expanding. Now, we've got more investment in these battlecruisers, and I think this is a time where he's got a little bit more freedom for it. I'm still not a fan of this, though, because as good as battlecruisers are, they're so susceptible to Corruptors. Like, look at this fight. Even with the Yamatos and even with a little bit of better focus fire, it wouldn't change the outcome. These battlecruisers are totally dead. He's got to teleport on this one, but these two are probably in trouble. Thor's transform, knock these out of the sky. That might be a little bit more worthwhile. He may have to teleport this one. I don't know. Thors don't get their bonus damage versus Corruptors, so it's a little tough to justify these fights, but those Thors will be really valuable later on. Locust pick up on this side. They're going to actually ignore the command center, but that's fine. Hellbats are out. Tanks might do a little bit of friendly fire, so that's why he unsieges them. Tanks can sometimes be your best friend or worst enemy. Well, Hellbats are somewhat fragile. They do very quickly deal with the Locust waves. Oftentimes, you'll listen to me talk. Ooh, excuse me, hiccup. Oftentimes when I'm casting a mech player, you'll hear me talk about how they very much need, not want, but need to have Hellbats with their army. If you don't have Hellbats and you focus too much on tanks and Thors, you will 100% die to anything that masses you. Like Swarm Hosts, like Locusts. So having the appropriate amount of Hellbats is kind of hard to judge. I think one of the things, speaking as a player who does like to play mech, granted at a much lower level, you start getting really complacent about your Hellions because they don't register as like these big important units, right? Like more battlecruisers means better chance to win because more Yamatos. Oh wait, I actually need Hellbats or I lose my entire ground army. And that's the situation I found myself in many times. This is the situation we've watched pros in many times. Luckily for now, well actually not luckily, he's lost a lot of the Hellbats for this fight, so the Swarm Hosts are dealt with, but wave 2 might not be so easy. It's actually really wild that he's producing Hellbats, by the way. I think every single Terran player I've ever seen produces Hellions and then transforms them. But you can make Hellbats pre-transformed, which is an odd thing to consider because not many people do it. But all things considered in this game, if I show you the army graph, and I show you the income graph, and I show you the units lost, the one thing you're going to realize, this has not been a game about economic damage. This has been a lot of frontline damage. Granted, there were several drones that were killed very early in the game, right? But then he remade them because he already had like 50 plus. So no one's economy has really been ruined in this game. Oh, this is so annoying when this happens. Caustic Spray is a spell as well. So I had a viewer ask the other day, and I'll just reiterate now. Building armor does not affect that. It goes through armor. Caustic Spray also ramps up so much over time. But looking for the Locust and looking for a spot to be. The Roaches actually catch some of this out of position, and that's not fun to deal with these Roaches. Roaches are these kind of units that they do require a heavier hand to respond with. I will give some big kudos though to Dream. He's been handling these attacks pretty well in my opinion. For somebody who is fighting mostly free units and losing units that cost money, he's actually still ahead in resources lost. So very well handled. Good cost efficiency from those battle cruisers early on are certainly helping pay off here in the late game. You like the artwork I commissioned from 5ish? Nice, dude. I didn't know you followed her. This is an awkward spot for a number of reasons. For both sides of this, really. The bridges on Ephemeron make these really thin chokes, which obviously big clumsy units like Thors will suffer from more than, say, Roaches and Ravagers. Thors luckily have enough health to take the hits, but that's another dynamic I've found really fascinating. We've been watching a lot of Korean Terrans specifically leave their Thors in single target mode when fighting air locusts. I've been doing a lot of pondering about this, and I think the reality is, like, they just, between the extra range and the faster attack, sure, the other Thors do more damage, but take literally twice as long to shoot, and Locusts rarely stack up enough that you're going to get the full splash damage. So I think Thors in single target mode are perfectly fine. They do like half of the Locust health per shot. Oh my god, this goes to Bile's Sting, 60 a shot. But again, Thors have like 400 HP. These things can take a hit. Couple Yamadas to grab a Locust, a Swarm Host here and there. I think we're getting to that point though where I'm a little worried about this Hellion count. Well, specifically Hellions and Hellbats. Swarm Host will continue to be very frustrating to deal with, but he definitely doesn't have enough to wash these off so easily. Granted, the trade-off is the damage from the Thors might just be beefy enough to actually deal with the Locust directly, but either way, Hellbats are cheap and Thors are not. You don't want to lose a Thor. Oh, Battlecruiser almost sits in that corrosive bow. Nice splits out of Dream. While this went on, the Corruptors wanted to go for the backline attack. They're kind of denied there. They'll now hunt down the Battlecruisers on the front line. These BCs will try and Yamato cannon before dying. Remember, it's very important to take these Corruptors out of the fight still. But Armani is finally getting what is, in my opinion, the single best upgrade when it comes to dealing with Terran. And that's Neural Parasite. Because these Thors are huge and they do crazy damage and they're massive. But they also take up a large portion of your supply. You could theoretically build more Infestors than the Terran player could make Thors. So having a couple Neural Parasites to remove some of these units from the army would be really, really beneficial. If he can get that to happen, of course. Because Dream, this is not an unkillable army. This is just a super, super durable army, I think is how I'd phrase it. A lot of these Thors are close to 20 kills apiece. Swarm Hosts are almost ready to go again for round 2. Almost. And that splash damage from the Hellions will be sorely missed for this. Look at that. One blast does like 80% of the health of these Locusts. So yeah, he's really got to keep producing these. While this went on, I guess some more Caustic Spray action pushed off the command center. Sorry, I've been really focused on the frontline battle because these Thors are so expensive. Dream really doesn't have the money to remake these. So the fact that he's extending like this, first off, is beyond confident on his part. Like, okay. But secondly, the other part of it is just like he really can't remake these if they die. If these die, they're dead. When people die, they're dead. Ronan Dream says, hey, Base Trade TV, how many Corruptors would a BC need to kill to be cost neutral, let alone cost effective? I think 3 or 4. I'm saying that off the top of my head, but I don't actually know. We'll have to do real math, and I'm not doing math on stream. Regardless, I mentioned earlier on, if you just mass up versus Thor, so you just get a lot of units. It doesn't matter whether it's Lings, whether it's Roaches, whether it's Swarm Hosts, you can conquer Thors in that way without that support. I'm just gonna say it again. If you had like a wall of Hellbats in front of the Thors, I don't think they die there. It's tough though. I've been there. I know what it feels like on an amateur scale. I can only imagine the pressures on like a pro scale when you got a million more things you're doing. Because like, hey, me, Joe Schmo Rifkin, when I'm playing this style, I'm only focused on this. These guys are focused on this and their macro. Yeah, regrettably, I don't think the planetary is going to hold against this. I do like the SCVs being pre-pulled, but Corrosive Biles and Swarm Host threaten both the planetary as well as the Thors. Dream will hold on to this for a little bit longer, but Broodlords are on the table. They've just finished morphing here to the bottom left. And, I mean, God knows, a planetary with building armor can hold off against Broodlings that don't have upgrades for pretty much forever. They only deal 4 damage. In fact, Broodlings and, was it High Templar, are the only thing that do less damage than a worker, by the way. Fun fact. But Broodlings definitely don't hit through enough to do when there's building armor in play, but there's no building armor this game, which does feel like a little bit of a waste. I think every Terran player out there kind of agrees it's a great upgrade. You just usually can't afford to go for it because you're going for upgrades on bio. But when you're playing mech, there's almost no excuse not to, I feel. Regardless, he crushes the Broodlords. Like, that was a joke of a fight. Thors are made to be hard counter to air massive units. Be it Tempests, be it battle cruisers, be it Broodlords, or even carriers. Like, if it's an air unit with a tag massive, Thors are here to F them up. So that fight down there was awkward. I don't think Armani needed to sacrifice that. And he doesn't have the income nor the money lead right now to have thrown away. How many Broodlords? 9? 7, excuse me. I know it was the odd number. People die when they are killed. Yes. That guy knows what I'm talking about. Weeb. Dream continues to push. But Armani's tech has been really reduced by this. I don't mean because he's lost buildings. He's not rebuilding Swarm Hosts. He's not making more Corruptors. He went for Neural Parasite, but we don't see any Infestors. He's sticking with the brute force of these roaches, which, by the way, without Hellbats to support this, might have worked with the Swarm Hosts. But because there was Hellbats, that got cleaned up very easily. Ravagers diving very close. Here come. This happened way too late in the game. Now he's going to knock down these Infestors. He's going to try and free some of his own units. Granted, this was a temporary measure, but it does deal with Dream's front line, and Dream really can't afford to remake these. I do like this tanks hit squad he set up at the top right. By the way, that was a very important base for Armani. For both players, expansions are critical at this stage of the game, as most of their initial bases are mining or already mined out. In fact, we haven't revisited the income in some time. It's been very back and forth with people pulling workers, SCVs repairing, and drones getting killed. But funny enough, they're kind of on a similar-ish worker count, so I would say similar-ish army, but I think mules are way better for this particular situation. The only time I ever really talk about mules being good is usually sarcastic, but man, Armani and Dream, I kind of hate knowing that this might, like, if Dream loses this, we don't get a game 3. So if you're watching this game and you're having a good time, root for Dream to win, because we deserve a game 3. The audience deserves a game 3. However, the pacing that this is going, it's definitely, for me, feeling a little bit better for Armani. Siege tanks are certainly going to help out a lot. This is really important because a lot of the Swarm Hosts are still in play. Those siege tanks are not the answer that they normally would be in this scenario. But again, it's 3-3. The emphasis for upgrades went to range, so it's all invested here in the Swarm Hosts. There's hardly any melee upgrades, so things like Broodlords and Lings are just like an afterthought, hardly a threat. The Ibex cannon has huge splash damage on it, so that's going to help out a ton of dealing with the Locusts. So the tanks do hold once again. But now we're in that situation we see a lot more classically with this dynamic, where it is free units trading out for expensive units. And that's where the cost efficiency comes in for Armani here to late game. I don't know what Dream type, but I gotta imagine it was the Korean of you know? Now this from to the left side. I'm a backstabber. Thank you very much for the 9-month resub. The archer class is really made of archers. What? What? Knocking down the Night Storm feels good. Swarm Hosts come out though, and again, no building armor. So this planetary is so super. Oh, hold on. He did actually pull the SCVs. Is that enough? It's barely not enough. Oh, now the SCVs are gonna die. Lambs to the slaughter. Now, of course, while this went on, looks like some Hellions run by and did some damage too. So this is not something for nothing. Something for something. Is that a cheat code? I know something for nothing's a cheat code, but so is Operation Qual. You know what? My whole life, it wasn't until I was like 25 or 26. I'm 30, by the way. That I realized Operation Qual actually had a meaning. Because if you guys don't know, the cheat code was Operation Qual, right? Can't wait any longer, and that's why it's like instant research and stuff. And blew me away. I was like, oh, I didn't know that qual actually meant something. No parasite on the back line's a little bit too much. These tanks, of course, this is what I hate. The Zerg player gets the upgrades, so they no parasite your tanks. They steal like a quarter of your army, and then those army units blow the rest of your army units away. It is friendly fire in the worst of ways. Not balance complaining, just frustration venting, because I've had it happen too many times myself. But I think there's a lot of things missing from Dream. Going back to the idea of Liberators. I mean, consider where we're at in the game. Sure, Ravagers might deal with it, but Liberators wouldn't be a bad investment. Or Raven to lead the front lines. I just feel like when you play this ground style of mech, it's not a terrible way to play by any stretch of the imagination. But it has its limitations, and we're seeing Dream really basically get run up into a wall. There's limitations through these Thors, what they can do. Kind of killing him here. The swap over to Vikings, it's a nice idea. But I mean, he's making Vikings to counter Locusts. Vikings do not counter Locusts. It takes like 3 shots from a Viking to kill a Locust. And I feel like at this point, just make Hellbats. But at the same time, make Liberators. There's a lot to go on here. I'm nitpicking. These guys are in the most stressful 25-minute stage of this game. I'm not a pro player. I'm not going to try and pretend like I know better. I'm just speaking from games that I've seen other players who are better do better. The Archer class. Oh, you're making Fate references. Dude, when you subbed, I thought you were talking about Stream Raiders. I'm going to be honest with you. The 2-minute delay is killer. Because you guys hear me making this reference. But as you all know, I've got the brain of a goldfish. So the second I've said it, it's out of my mind. Like, for good. Oh, apparently we got some translation coming from chat. Apparently what Armani and Dream had said was, this is difficult, or it's hard, and me too, or something like that. I can see that. Because Armani, for better or for worse, he's like not dicking around, right? Like Armani's not playing with his food. Oh no. How many mules is this? Too many! But Armani really is struggling to get the killing blow on Dream, despite his best efforts. But he finally does it. GG. Armani takes the series 2-0.